My name is Georgakakos. I'm a project scientist at UC Berkeley, a river ecologist focused on the fishes of the Eel River, working on implementation of a large-scale pike minnow management project to benefit our native fishes, including coho salmon. For my dissertation, I described pike minnow migration that occurs each year. Pike minnow move from downstream reaches into headwater reaches over the course of the summer, and we've used that information in part of the management program to block them during their migration. So what we've done recently is implement a weir, which is basically an underwater fence that blocks pike minnow as they're moving upstream and protects that headwater area, which is really the premier rearing habitat for juvenile salmon, which spend a whole year in fresh water before they out-migrate to the ocean. I also have done some snorkel surveys as part of my dissertation research, and we're using that information to kind of evaluate the effectiveness of our suppression program. And the Adopt a Salmon program is helping us track those impacts to the native fish that we want to benefit. I've participated in the project by catching and tagging the juvenile salmon, and then I've also been trying to benefit these salmon on their way out by catching and removing as many pike minnow as possible, which are consuming our tagged salmon on their way out to the ocean. There's this balance when working with invasive species. The tendency is to potentially blame the organism for the impact that it's having on the environment that it inhabits now. But really, it's not the pike minnow's fault. Pike minnow are an amazing native California fish in many systems. They were moved in by a kind of thoughtless human act, which has had a very large impact. It's not the pike minnow's fault, it's our fault, and we're trying to work to kind of recover a mistake that happened, but not blame or demonize this fish, which is a pretty amazing critter in its native range. I feel very fortunate to be able to have worked on the same project in a place that I care a lot about, the Eel River. A lot of scientists don't get to work on these longer-term projects. And I've been working on pike minnow in the Eel River for over 10 years now and applying some of my findings as a graduate student into a management context now. And I'm excited to see whether it's effective or not. We've learned a lot in our suppression program over the last few years over what methods work and what time of year, how to implement a weir, when is gill netting effective, in what conditions does spear fishing work well, and what fish are targeted by all of those different methods. So we're hoping to synthesize all of that information and make it accessible and relevant to be applied as we try to scale up the suppression program, which has largely been focused on the South Fork of the Eel to the rest of the basin. And that's the eventual goal, working towards a river that is able to support large numbers approaching historic levels of coho, chinook, and steelhead without as much human intervention. Pike minnow suppression is a labor-intensive and necessary step in that process that we can reach a new equilibrium. That's kind of the dream.